This is Stephen O'Keefe, and this is a video covering my visual development for a feature film screenplay I wrote in 1995 called Motive. I'd probably change the name now because there are a few movie titles in the last 20-odd years which have been called Motive. But these boards, which are shown more or less out of sequence, cover my visual development. Here is where the lead character, a police detective named Stettler, has a stroke in the middle of a rainstorm and has an internal vision or a dream while he's unconscious. This is a different scene from a different part of the movie, a little too complicated to go into in the short period of this video. But these storyboards were done in different formats. Some were just ink and marker on paper, others were digitally created. But basically I wanted to push how far storyboards could go, because I'd been a storyboard artist working for CTV Atlantic in the 1990s, and this is traditionally how I would design storyboards. But as you'll see, I evolve my storyboard technique, which wasn't really done back then in the 90s, where people were doing anything as elaborate as the boards I was doing, but I wanted to push them even further, and as you'll see, I go into a very rendered, painterly type of storyboard, which was very new at the time. You can see it here. This is a different scene, more from the opening of the movie, where I wanted to push it almost into a illustrated novel or comic book form. Again, these are sort of rough boards, but they give you an idea of the lighting that I was looking for, and a rather complicated shot that I'd planned for this scene, where Stettler uncovers the very mangled remains of a human body and wants to take a photo of it before the paramedics start arriving, and the usual contingent of people for a scene like that. There's the paramedics. So I knew I had to plan this shot where Stettler was basically grabbing a camera that one of his assistants brought him, who was a little too put off by the gore of it, but to show that Stettler was sort of a senior detective type and was very used to these things, he sort of grabs the camera out of the more hesitant assistant and takes the photos himself. So I wanted to do this from a very low angle and have it very synchronized, where a dolly track would be laid below the ground looking at them. So I pushed my boards even further into what you're seeing here, which is a fully animated version with the characters standing around and everything being viewed from the perspective of the mangled body. So that's it for the boards. These are a few layouts of marketing to sell the movie, at its concept stage, just to get people intrigued. Here is more development for the hardware end. The script involved a concept helicopter that was more drone than helicopter. Again, this was well over 20 years ago, but I had to design this thing with a rear fin that could sort of adjust itself to make it move faster, like a dragonfly or a fish. And I went through quite a bit of development for this to make it look sort of futuristic but yet military, and the final design has a bit of a drone look and a bit of a military helicopter look, as you'll see here. This is the final design here, the profile of it. And as snazzy as it looks, that's over 20 years old now. So here's another title attempt for the main title. And that's it for Motive. So to restore these Motive files into high definition for YouTube, it was a matter of going back to the original applications that I'd used back in the 1990s, or 20 years ago. This is Pixar Typistry. You can see the files go back to 1996 and 97. And I've created new high-definition files for 2018, and it was simply a matter of going into the image format settings and tweaking it from the old standard definition format and into a high-definition image format and re-rendering it out. The software works exactly as it did back in the day. It has a very good renderer, RenderMan for the Mac, and gives you an alpha channel and everything, so it really wasn't a big deal rendering this old stuff out for high definition. The other file format I used was the RIFF format for Fractal Design Painter for the more advanced storyboards, which allowed me to use more painterly brushes. And finally, Fractal Design Poser for the animation of the dolly shot. I mean, I was animating this stuff just a few years after Pixar's Toy Story first came out, so this program is pretty old, but it did the job, and it still does the job even to this day, and it was just a matter of going into the image format and tweaking it to render out in high definition instead of standard definition. These programs still work in OS 9 emulation. I mean, this Macintosh here is over 12 years old now, but all the old software still does work on it. You can see the dates on these files from 1997 and 1998 when I was working on this project. Even the Poser animation file was 1997, or over 20 years ago. So that's what I was working on all those years ago on my own to develop the visual aspects of Motive.